jolly good.
Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clank Zoka. Welcome to another My Thoughts On. Today I'm going to be doing Ted 2, which was also requested by Anthony Fordes, or Fords, because he requested me to do the first Ted as well. So, Ted 2, that's the sequel to the 2012 comedy hit, also as well. And actually, I actually did see this film when it came out, or at least a few months after it came out, because I think it came out like July time or something, or something like that. I think. And I remember seeing it with two of my friends. I think it came out. Let me look this up. I think it came out on the 8th, and I think we saw it in July. Could be wrong there, but yeah, July. I think we saw it like a few weeks later in August as well. I remember this was kind of back when 2015 personally was my favourite year for films. Like, that was such a good year, not just for films, just genuinely. And Ted 2 was a film I was actually looking forward to, because first Ted, as you know, I think is a pretty great comedy. It's not all that original and it's not amazing, but it was funny, fresh. It had a very silly premise, but it pulled off quite well. And with the sequel, although the first film's critical response was, I can personally say it's mostly positive, but the second film I think is more mixed, to say the least. And well, I haven't seen it in a long time. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the cinema, I think. Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about Ted, shall we? So Ted, voiced once again by Seth MacFarlane, is going on trial because he's considered not a human, and obviously because he's a teddy bear. And so he hires this lawyer named Sam Jackson, or Samantha Jackson, and yes, they do make a joke about Samuel L. Jackson, because her middle name's Leslie, played by Amanda Seyfried, or Seyfried, along with, Ted's buddy Johnny, played by Mark Wahlberg again. And so they have to go to New York to find this lawyer, who's played by Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman. Because technically, Ted was already married to Tammy Lynn, who's played by Jessica Barth, but he can't because he's not a person, he's just a teddy bear. However, a familiar face returns to this film also, and decides to do something big with Ted as well. Obviously, it's Donnie again, played by Giovanni Ribisi. Okay, so the film is clearly a lot more different to the first film, really, because I don't know, I thought the first film was simpler enough and it actually had a good structure, and while not entirely funny, it had a pretty nice payoff, and I thought it was heartwarming, even though it wasn't emotional. It did have good, emotional scenes and all that, and it felt genuine and original. Ted 2 kind of just goes for the same shtick. Ted says some funny reference humor thing while the scenes are supposed to be taken seriously. So he's kind of like Deadpool, only the sequel, unlike Deadpool and even Deadpool 2, is not all that funny. I love Deadpool, and I think Deadpool 2 is also really good too. And I also really like Ted as well, but Ted 2, the story just feels like exactly what you think it is. And the first film did that too, but with this one here, it's pretty obvious. They're saying, we're not going to classify you as a person, and then it's like, yeah, you know what's going to happen. There's literally a courtroom scene, which, although it is a little funny, there were a few points in the film, including that court scene, I was actually kind of bored. I'm sorry if I'm saying that, but I was a little bored of this film because it does kind of drag on at a few points. That's mainly because Seth MacFarlane's comedy is genuinely just boring and pandering, at least with Family Guy and American Dad. And even the first two I thought did that a little bit, but it was actually funnier pretty much anything he's done, really. The film still has some good laughs, although not as funny as Ted 1. There are lots of obvious reference humour. There's even the third act, which takes place mostly in Comic Con. And knowing Seth MacFarlane, there must have been like an absolute just great time. It even has celebrity cameos like freaking Liam Neeson, Jay Leno, the Hasselhoff himself as well. Sam Jones returns as well. Like this is basically every fan's dream, and I assume Seth MacFarlane's a big fan of Liam Neeson. Obviously, he was on Family Guy, Hasselhoff, of course. So this is a film that's just relies mostly on just fan humor and fan service, really, which is what Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy is. And in fact, this film doesn't really feel like Ted. It feels more like Family Guy, only with a teddy bear. And like I said, it does have a couple of funny lines, but most of the humor is just references, and it's like, yeah, it gets old really fast. There's a freaking Jurassic Park reference when they see weed because, it's a comedy adult film, so the main character has to either drink, smoke, or do drugs. Never seen that before. And obviously, knowing that it's a sequel, they're going to have to break up again and say that he's sorry. A character then dies, and then something funny happens. This reminded me too much of Rio 2, down to the point that the main villain actually returns, and even though I liked Nigel in Rio 2, it felt very, very similar. And when it tries to be emotional, I'll give it credit. Like the first film, it's done well, but I didn't really care all that much because I knew what was going to happen for the most part. So mostly I was just kind of uninvested and just a little bit bored. There is I will admit, there is a pretty funny SML sketch of the courtroom scene that has, no joke, Kate McKinnon and Bobby Moynihan. And also Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon is also in it too. Tom Brady too as well. I mean, yeah, this is definitely a film with celebrities. Honestly, there's not much I can praise about the story. It's standard, average, painfully cliched, and kind of painfully unfunny as well. Especially there's one scene, and you've probably seen it a little bit in the trailer, where they're going to this, I don't know what it's called, but they go to this place where they sort out sperm, and then sperm falls all on John when they get there, and there's the joke of the hashtag Grr Monday. I don't think it's that funny. I think it's just gross, and I get it. It's gross out humor, but it's genuinely not that funny. So unfortunately, unlike the first film, the story just is too repeated and mostly just kind of unfunny. It does have a couple of good lines and good funny moments as well, and I will admit the opening did open quite strong when we see Tammy Lynn and Ted get married, and there's a great opening title sequence with like some musical, like Family Guy sequence. That's actually really good. I thought, you know what, this film's actually going to be pretty good. But knowing that Mila Kunis is not in this, and if you're asking, no, I actually do not know why. I was like, okay, that's not too bad. But then the film just kind of gets a bit stale and very painfully average. If you remove Ted, this would have been like every other comedy. But in this case, with Ted, it feels like a very standard Seth MacFarlane comedy. Whether that's a good or bad thing may differ. So unfortunately, unlike Ted, this doesn't feel like a story that makes me say I love you. It makes me say visuals. Just like the other film, just like the first film, this is really nothing special to look at. You know, the stuff on Ted is well done and he looks very convincing. And that's it. They go to Comic Con, which looks nice, I guess, and the nighttime scenes look good. That's it. There's really nothing special about comedies when it comes to visuals, unless you're Edgar Wright or The Hangover, I guess. But uh, Todd Phillips with The Hangover. But besides that, Seth MacFarlane's comedy or his films or the stuff he works on are visually not that interesting to look at. Even Family Guy is even not that interesting to look at either. But it's still nice. It still looks bright and colourful as well. But that's really all I can say about it. It's bright and colourful. So although the stuff on Taylor's well done and the effects, I don't know if they are effects or not, but it's well done and it looks nice, and that's really all I can say about it. But it is really average looking. But hey, it's a comedy, so what did I expect? Characters and acting. One of the things in this film that makes me kind of a bit worried is that if the characters would change, and in this film, that kind of depends on how you see it. Personally, I think some of them have changed a little bit. Ted, I'll be very honest, I thought he was actually getting really annoying. And in the first film, I didn't mind him a lot. I thought he was pretty great, and here it's like he's just acting like an arsehole, as always, and same with Johnny as well. And I will admit, the chemistry, although good, it does get quite obnoxious, and it does rely heavily on reference humour, which is something I really do not like at all. And they're both really just the same as they were before, but kind of even more unlikable. Samantha is just your typical love interest, and in this case, the love interest actually does not get any of the references at all, as well. But she also smokes pot as well. Yeah, she's just kind of there because she's a lawyer, and they need John to get a love interest after Laurie left. Donnie is just the same as he was before. There's really no change except he works as a freaking like janitor for Hasbro, and knowing Hasbro, they have to. Oh yeah, this film has big products, by the way. The first film had a little bit with Budweiser, but this one's like they have so many products: Star Wars, Marvel, DC, My Little Pony, Ninja Turtles, even Knight Rider 2 as well, and freaking oh god. This film is it's exactly what you think it is. Granted, Donnie is, he could have had a little bit more of an interesting twist on him, but he just comes and then he goes, and he's really not in the film for very long, and unfortunately, he doesn't really offer that much. There's a judge as well who's not interesting. Also, most of the characters in the film are not interesting. Although Guy, played once again by the brilliant Patrick Warburton, is still funny, so there's that. There's also freaking Tony Stark's dad, played by John Slattery. It's not all that funny as well. Morgan Freeman's in it, and he's good, although it's very distracting to. Okay, if they got so many celebrities, why couldn't they just get Morgan Freeman just to be called Morgan Freeman instead of Patrick Minigan or Manigan or whatever? The acting it's fine. Seth MacFarlane does a funny voice as always, but it is sounding a little too similar to Peter Griffin. Mark Wahlberg is fine. Amanda Seyfried is good. Giovanni Ribisi is also good as well. The acting's good, but it's just something I've seen, and honestly, even though they put on very funny performances and they are saying these funny lines, it's like they seem funny, but it's like nothing funny's coming out of them. So every now and then there would be a funny line, but it's like I can see the funny potential, but it's like I've seen this too many times before, so it's not really working. The characters really suffer from just being boring, bland, and just kind of the same. But the acting's good, but unfortunately it doesn't make them stand out enough. Look, it's been 5 or 6 years since I watched the film, and I don't remember what I thought about it. I think I remember liking it when it came out. Obviously, I thought the first Ted was better, but then after watching this, yeesh, I actually kind of dislike it a little more. Now, I don't think it's bad. It's not a bad film at all. I wouldn't say it's as bad as, like, I'm trying to think of some shit comedies. Like Jack and Jill, Zookeeper. I would rather watch this over the Adam Sandler stuff, with the exception of Hotel Transylvania, because I like those. But unfortunately, it doesn't quite reach the high standards of the first Ted, which was a great film despite how flawed it was, but this one has more flaws than good stuff. Ted 2 is just your average comedy sequel that really doesn't do anything special. The comedy is still funny at times, but mostly just painfully reference humour and just falls flat. Visually, it's nothing interesting. Ted looks pretty good in CGI and all that. The characters all become kind of one character. They all become one group of characters, just humour and reference humour, and yeah, the acting's good for the most part, but it doesn't make the characters really any different. Even the score by Walter Murphy, who did the music for Family Guy, gets very irritating. Look, if you like Ted, you'll most likely enjoy this, but for someone who does actually like Ted a lot, this is quite a disappointment. And again, I don't think it's bad. It's just kind of a mediocre sequel. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take this rating low because I gave it a 6 and I can't confirm if it's a zero point 0.5 or just a 6. I'm gonna give it a 5.8 out of 10. Um, I really wanted to like it because I did enjoy it when I saw it, but time flies by. I'm like, yeah, this didn't quite hold up as well. But it's not a bad film. I would happily take this over any shit comedy, but yeah, first Ted's better. There we go. So Ted 1 and Ted 2. It was nice looking back at them, but unfortunately, we know the originals, or at least in this case, the first film's better. So next up, I'm going to be talking about um, two films that I wanted to see. What are they exactly? Well, that's for you to find out. So, if you have seen Ted or Ted 2 or both, what did you think about them? Do you think they're good, bad, decent? Do you want to see them? Let me know below, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Until next time, Grr Monday!